Welcome, everyone, to People on Dating. I'm your host, Will Morales. And for those of you who are tuning in for the first time, this podcast is about the ups and downs of dating and how to navigate through it. Today, my guest is Rochelle White. She is a multifaceted innovator, blending roles as a business owner, creative director, producer, teacher, and transdisciplinary artist. Rochelle, thank you so
Hi.
much for being on People on Dating. How are you?
Hi, I'm great. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited.
Listen, it's my pleasure. So, Rochelle, tell me a little bit about yourself. What was your journey like to get here today? You're a business owner. You're a producer. What was that journey like for you to get here to today? What was that aha moment?
Well, I feel like it's not just like one aha moment. It's just that I have a lot of interest in different things. And, my attention goes kind of to where my heart goes. And creatively, because I'm a creative, that can be a lot of places sometimes. So, what ends up happening is like I'm finding myself along the journey through art and film and writing. And I do have a background in behavioral health and therapy. And I also have this passion for yoga, mindfulness, meditation, and the holistic type of medicine as well, because I think it's so important. Um, so all of those different interests converge to make me who I am. And then my
Mhm.
spiritual faith, like my journey as a Christian and so forth. And just that exploration has brought me to where I am. I really just have to say all glory be to God that I'm here and I'm in a
Yeah.
sound mind, and that I am capable of having these types of conversations and really making sense. And I kind of think that that's what makes it, when I do speak about these things that we're going to be talking about,
Yeah.
makes it make sense to a lot of people because people can digest it and I'm able to understand it from all these different perspectives, um, through creativity and so forth, and through my
Right.
skill sets. Yeah.
Yeah, that's some journey. I mean, and today's topic is a good one. It's about social media, how it exasperates insecure attachment. Definitely want to talk about that because um, I see now, even with young people and even older people, they just on their phones. It's like they live on their phone.
Mhm.
So talk more about how social media exasperates the insecure attachment. And if you could tell us a little bit, what does that mean?
Okay, so I think it helps first, to get into what insecure attachment is.
Sure.
Then we can bring in social media because most of us know what social media is, right?
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. So insecure attachment styles, well, there's a attachment theory, and there's four attachment styles according to this theory. I found through my own experience that these theories are very much on target in terms of relationships. And I really do believe in these styles. I really do think from even my own experience that I could see myself in it and I see other people. So I do want to say, yes, it's a theory, but there is a lot of science behind this. There's a
Mhm.
lot of studies and research. So insecure attachment is either anxious attachment, disorganized attachment, or avoidant attachment. Secure attachment is the one where we're secure, right? And that doesn't
Right.
mean that it's without any problems in relationships. It just means individuals that are securely attached have a great sense of self and are able to come into relationships, be intimate, communicate, not feel like they're going to lose themselves within the relationship, and show up also to meet their own needs and then be available to meet their partners. This is really important because anxious attachers are individuals that are looking for other individuals to fulfill their needs. They don't know this. This isn't like this thing that they write down in the morning. I'm gonna go and have somebody fulfill my need for acceptance and vulnerability. It
Right.
doesn't, or invalidation. It doesn't work like that. It's like a biological response, and this response is something that can come from childhood. It can come from the first family dynamics. And this applies to all three insecure attachment styles.
Right.
So these are things that have started to take root early in life. So the anxious attacher is fearful of abandonment. They're
Mm.
validation and attention seeking because they want a sense of security. There's a lot of reassurance, that their partner, that they're going to seek from their partner. And think about it as like hanging on to a relationship no matter how bad it is. They don't want to
Right.
let go because the sense of letting go is connected to identity. It's very painful. It's not, it's not for somebody who's securely attached or who goes through one of the other attachment styles, it's not to diminish that experience because how we subjugate trauma and how we subjugate our experience is important in perspective when it comes to these attachment styles. So for a person anxiously attached, where one person would say, I don't see the big deal. Why are you connected to him? Or why are you connected to her? She's just bad for you.
Right.
You just dated once or twice. What do you mean? You feel like you see a whole life and future. And if this person don't say, you're like, oh my gosh, no, it's something wrong with me. How can't you see that your worth and value is still your worth and value, regardless if this person likes you or not? But for somebody who's dealing with anxious attachment, that's just not the case. It can feel like a blow. It could feel like an avalanche to their self-esteem and self-concept.
Right.
Disorganized attachment is the people who are fearful of trust. There's this need to feel safe from harm, to seek protection. So you want to think about these relationships as causing a lot of confusion or defensiveness. A
Right.
lot of self-sabotage occurs in these relationships. And this is because their caretaker, who they needed to meet their needs, could have been abusive or created trauma, or the way that they subjugated their caretakers' behaviors. And subjugation, again, is just how they dealt with the situation. I don't want to put
Mhm.
that word out there and make people confused. It's just how one deals with that situation and
Right.
deals with the actual experience. So, however they perceived it in that young childhood, they still felt like they had to go to the person who instilled fear inside of them to get their needs met. So it's like, I still need to eat today, but this person
Right.
is snapping out on me, or my parent is dealing with substance abuse and, we don't really have food, but, how I show up each day, it's like walking on eggshells. So that's where you develop that attachment style. Like, can I really trust the world? Can I trust other people in it? And
Right.
then the avoidant attacher is more of like this individual who subjugated in a way where they were like, I'm gonna be hyper dependent, independent. Sorry, hyper independent.
Independent. Yeah.
There's a great fear of losing autonomy in relationships or being enmeshed. So you can see them as wanting control. Think of it as like somebody that's shutting down and kind of like pushing everybody away, but they like need help. They're like, I'm by
Mm.
myself, I'm an island, and I can do it all by myself. And
Yeah.
your disorganized attachers can sometimes show both. And sometimes people may look at an anxious attacher when they're in their protest phase as being like the avoidant, in a sense, like, oh, just stay away from me. I'm moving on without you or whatever. But really, these styles are more, integrated in these certain fears. And all of them are suffering with a fear of intimacy and emotional vulnerability. So I hope that that gives your viewers a sense of what insecure attachment is. Because now when we dive into social media,
Yeah.
it's going to make a lot more sense. Do you have any questions though before I move forward?
Yeah. It's funny, because there was a time when I was younger in my 20s,
Mhm.
anytime I got into a relationship and I found the woman liking me more than I liked her, or let's say it was even, I pulled away because I grew up with my grandparents. Um, so the fear of abandonment hit me
Mhm.
very early. Obviously, I should say obviously, but later on, I sought therapy. I read books about it and all that. But it was one of those things for me, especially in my 20s, that anytime I had a relationship, I was out of there. Oh, she loves me.
Mhm.
Oh, I can't do that. No, no, no. But at the other end, I love being with my friends, whether they were male or females. So I
Mhm.
love people. I love being with people like, so I want to know, did I have any of that, any of those symptoms of, let's say, insecure attachment? Did, did, did,
Probably. I
did
mean,
I, did I make, did I make sense at all?
yeah, I mean, I would say more on the avoidant end,
Yeah.
because avoidants are fearful of abandonment as well. They just subjugated it, dealt with it in a
Yeah.
way in which they became very hyper independent to meet their own needs. Sort of like
Right.
that person that leaves home and says, "Screw you, I'm out. Like
I'm
I'm going
out.
to
Yeah.
California. Like I'm never turning back." Like, and it's like the reality of it is though is like you had to go through a process because that lack of intimacy did cause issues within your life for you to seek out therapy. And this
Yeah.
idea of being all by yourself as, an island to protect yourself or and the avoidant nature in which you were dealing with relationships, like love relationships,
Yeah, that
was
was more so. Yeah,
yeah.
definitely. And sorry, I didn't mean to control, but
No,
I
you got it.
also ended up
Yeah.
talking to my mother about it.
Hmm.
I asked her, okay, what happened? How did I end up with my grandparents? I mean, they were loving grandparents, don't get me
Yeah.
wrong. And she explained what happened. I don't want to get into details about it because this is about you today.
No,
but
no, I'm listening. I think this will help your viewers to have a
but when I talked
sounding
to
point.
her, at the time when she had me, she was 16.
Okay.
Back
Yeah.
in the
Young.
40s, was it? Yeah, I think she was born in the 40s, if I remember correctly. So yeah, was it? Yeah, something like that. So she had me at 16, if give or take. I mean, she was a baby, a young woman, a young girl. So
Mhm.
she explained some of the things, and I said, okay, that makes sense now. Now, in my mind, I'm like, gee, you told me 35, 40 years later. But that was
Yeah.
a question I should have asked, and I
Well, did you
didn't.
feel like it helped you to resolve
A
some of
hundred
your
percent.
okay, good.
Definitely 100%. And I still read about it. I
Mhm.
still, and
Mhm.
as I got into my late 30s and 40s, my relationships with women got 100% better. And I would talk about friendship. I'm just talking about the intimacy part and all that.
Absolutely, because you process emotions from childhood that were deeply rooted.
Yeah.
And when you were a child, you didn't have the reason or the capability to stop. Like you wanted your mom and you wanted your family,
Yeah.
and you've seen other people with their families likely. I'm not saying that's exactly your experience, but we could imagine that, from what you're saying, you wanted your mom and you had these questions of like,
Yeah.
well, why weren't you there for me? And that carried through your life until you were able to process it.
Yeah.
And the great thing was you were able to put whatever other feelings you may have had regarding that, like maybe resentments and bitterness or whatever
A
else,
hundred
aside
percent towards her. Yes,
people her.
definitely.
And
Yeah.
that is where the key is in the intimacy was that you were able to create a relationship with her. Now, that doesn't happen for everybody, and closure is possible without conversation, okay?
Mhm.
But the fact that you did have it and that you were open to it set the precedence for your other relationships. It really probably opened up the door for your healing. And by processing those emotions that were unresolved in childhood, as an adult now with power and reason and the capability to act on the alarms, your intuition and the
Yeah.
pain inside. When you're young and you're abandoned, you can't force your parent to be there or emotionally neglected or abused, and you have a lack of power. And there's the difference in terms of our life from when we're young and then how we can heal when we're older is that epiphany, that self-awareness that I'm no longer that child anymore. And there are these emotions. And if you really sit with those emotions and not numb them, and this is where
Yeah.
social media comes in, not numb them or escape from those emotions, you can start to find ways to process them. And that is part of emotional vulnerability that needs to show up in relationships. And when that is missing, that is adding to the fear. And that is adding to whatever it is that's the driving force behind how somebody is showing up in their relationships with other human beings,
Yeah.
right? And with social media, for example, I want to just get into the fact that social media is already creating an online persona. And in these insecure
Mhm.
attachments, and I want to emphasize, because of not dealing with that emotional vulnerability that, we were just talking about and not processing emotions, we're dealing with what was probably adaptive solutions from childhood. Okay. So you had to survive through childhood. You had to close down the alarm system that you're sad and because you can't do anything about your mom coming back, for example.
Right.
Can't change your situation. You feel powerless and you adapt to those things. And if you're in a very volatile environment, you could be going on for years in something where there's so much stress and trauma that it's really like you're really prolonging that. So you might be disowning parts of yourself because, to be safe, you can't express your feelings. Or to be safe, you're like, yeah, I can't even think about the alarms going off. I just need to survive. You're in a high adrenaline state of mind of flight, fight, freeze, and then fawn. And fawn is where I think social media and this nervous system response
Mhm.
connect because that online persona is exasperated when you have attachment styles that are insecure. Because not only is social media just something that is difficult for anybody, right, that has any type of secure attachment to show up as their authentic self, especially young people, right?
Right.
There's little room in this day and age for mistakes because let somebody capture you who doesn't even have permission to maybe film you and you to go through a bad moment or to make a poor decision. Now it's on the internet for life. You know, we
Yeah.
hear about it all the time. So the exploration of identity that helps you to form this emotional vulnerability, that helps you to understand who you are and what your likes and dislikes are, is lessened because there's potential for bullying. If you show up as you are online, and this is like social capital, and this does spill over into other parts of your life. It could be your work, it could be your for young people, it could be their school, college students. I mean,
Mhm.
it's pretty much just a matter of like almost people of any age, right? But they're spilling over into your life, and there could be implications just for taking a position on politics even.
Right.
Then there's threats of social ostracization, so like canceling, where you're not sitting with the norms of that particular moment. Society is, pro this and you're not, but can you really show up and say, this is who you are? Right. And then we're also looking at like this thing of social capital again. If you're going against the algorithm, you're not getting the validation and the likes that you want. And here's the thing about all of these things, right? Their reward system, and this is really important, the reward system activates just the same way within gambling, right? You
Mhm.
don't have to win the prize in order to activate the dopamine and serotonin and the reuptake system within your mind. Those are those good feelings that come, and it kind of numbs your feelings in that moment. That's why social media is like a distraction and is not limited to social media. I do want to say that this phenomena
Yeah.
of your reward system activating also is occurring when you're looking at your email over and over again and you're scrolling down and looking for the next email, especially if you
Yeah.
need something out of that email, like the next opportunity, right? Um, and there's also that phenomenon that happens with games. So you're using games as a form of escape on your phone or any other, app in that way in which you're turning to the app for escape. And it's causing the same type of reward system to activate and is one and the same in that way. So when you start to add well, let me just say, do you have any questions before I get
Yeah.
into combining and converging these two things
Yes,
together?
because you were
Yeah.
saying getting validation online, right? And I thought
Yes.
that was the key, one of the keys of what you were
Mhm.
saying, because it seems like you just said, people want to get the validation, they want to get the likes, they want to get the comments and all that. How much does that affect the outside world then? I mean, because we're looking at on our phone, scrolling left and right or up and down, but now
Yeah.
you got to face the real world. You got to face the outside world. How does that
Mhm.
affect interaction with people? Are you going to stay you go to, let's say, a social center with some friends, but you're in a corner somewhere because, oh, I don't know what to say. Everything I say is
Yeah.
through text.
Yep.
Did that make sense at all?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's actually something I wanted to cover too,
Sure,
because one of the things is that through social media, and this is what I was going to kind of cover with the insecure attachment,
sure.
but I can get into it right now. There's a increase in anxiety for some people. And this is the dangers of social media. There's a lot of great things that can come from social media. Okay. It's
Right.
it's not this negative thing. It just needs some discipline and personal responsibility in using it. But when one is being used as escape and the rewards are being triggered, it's temporary. It's a
Mhm.
temporary form of escape. And dopamine is associated with like happiness and reward system for like instant gratification can deplete that. It depletes that dopamine and using it for other things in life, like, trying to finish tasks that are in your real life or showing up and having those connections at a party can be impacted. Now, I
Right.
say can be because, people are different, and these things aren't just like all in a vacuum. It's there are a lot of studies that show that this is an age where there is more anxiety and more depression, and there's this more sense of people being more introverted, not really forming intimacy and connection in real life, but taking that social capital from online and looking at it like it's an extension of their reality, when the reality of it is that what's taking place in their real life could be completely different from the online persona, first of all, that's being displayed
Oh,
for all the reasons that I mentioned. So it's a disowned version of self that's actually operating and engaging with people, or it's a self that has disowned parts to it, right?
right.
Parts that they maybe self-abandon. And for people that are dealing with insecure attachment, self-abandonment is, especially in like for an anxious attacher, is huge, because a lot trying to show up to be the person that somebody else wants is a task in its own. Okay, how do I get this person to love me? I don't, I want to feel reassurance. What can I do to show up to be everything that they want me to be? Well, you can imagine how that would transfer to online social capital, especially when individuals are feeling like they have relationships online, and these are really pseudo relationships. There are real relationships that occur online. I'm
Yeah.
talking about in the sense where somebody is already in an insecure relationship with other people. They already are dealing with insecure attachment, and they may not necessarily be aware of it. So online, what they're doing is they're taking the bare minimum of somebody just maybe scrolling and looking at their story and feeling like that is the reassurance that they are loved and they are
Mm,
liked. They're this pseudo relationship that is could be already forming in their mind, because people that deal with insecure attachment styles, I would say more on the anxious end, a lot of times can fall into fawning, romanticizing their partners and not really having the true partner in front of them. And I can imagine that that spills out into their social relationships in the rest of the world
yeah.
sometimes. But that's not every person, and everybody is different. I do want to say that. And there's also just different levels of mental health and emotional health that take place on the spectrum. But one of the things is like looking at the awareness of like, okay, this social world that's online is not necessarily providing intimacy that's healthy. It's a pseudo type of intimacy because of the dopamine and because of that feeling that I get, that good feeling when I see my post being liked by a whole bunch of people or being validated online. That is not necessarily connection. And forming real connections in life takes work. It takes
Yeah.
a sense of developing character, knowing your own needs, communication. If there's not communication in these relationships, online into real life, and you're like dating somebody and they're just giving you the bare minimum online, that is not a relationship that is healthy. It could be an avoidant attachment kind of push-pull dance, in which, that is something where people connect and they're opposites, and one is seeking, they're both fearful of abandonment, and they're both
Right.
dealing with it in ways that hurts each other even more. And one pulls away, the other one comes forward. I mean, these are what the best songs are written about. This is what the movies have,
Yeah.
the high passion, and then that's not including the fact that these relationships are addictive by nature because of that that attachment provides the sense of reward in itself, not even social media combined with it, just the sense of, okay, is the person, gonna text me today, or he's pulled
Yeah.
away, now he's coming back, or she's pulled away, now she's coming back, or you know what, I like kind of when this person is chasing after me, but when they get too close, I feel like I need to push away. And it's this game of kind of cat and mouse for some individuals in their relationships. And they may not completely understand that this isn't, I don't think this is intentional. It's just this biological response to their unprocessed emotions from their first family and childhood,
Yeah.
that the roles that they've become accustomed to playing. And if they are dealing with other, mental health issues or challenges and insecurities, how those exasperate the situation. So social media ends up becoming almost like an extension of this behavior. any, like we were saying, this can happen for people that are secure, it can happen to anybody where
Right.
they get so used to being online that that's their safe zone. And that safe zone becomes their escape, that becomes their comfort, and it's not really healthy. It's not giving them the connection that they really need or desire. It's a pseudo connection. It's a pseudo chemistry that's taking place.
You know, you hit, I think the biggest thing you hit about the pseudo relationship, the communication,
Mhm.
self-abandon. I think I got it right,
Yeah.
self-abandonment. Um, so how do we become aware that we're doing that we're relying on social media to give us the relationship we hope we want, or it's a fake relationship? Because listen, when I'm on Instagram, I'm there to promote my podcast or promote other people's
Mhm.
stuff. I'm not there to meet anyone. But when some woman
Yeah.
texts me and she says, "Oh, hi, sweetie. Hi, honey. Hi, babe," I'm like, "Come on, you don't even know me." But I think some people eat that up. So how do we
Well,
come? Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, intentionality is first. Second of all, the solution isn't on social media.
Right.
The solution is within, and personal responsibility for behavior. It's the same
Mm,
thing that anybody that's dealing with, insecure attachment styles would have to do, right? There's self-work, there's introspective work, there's making peace, healing. These things
mm,
are done off of social media, but when you show up on social media, you're capable of using the platform intentionally. Going inward gives you the ability to use tools outward to extend your social capital. I would like to, post this podcast, for example, on my page, right?
yeah.
And this is going to help me along in my journey. One thing I will say is that in the same way that social, the solution is offline, right? And it comes back to turning inward, there are things that people can do because of habits being what they are to change their algorithm, so to speak. So the behavior, just telling somebody to stop going in and using this coping mechanism that could be maladaptive for their life, that could be, not advantageous, no longer serving their function of what they need um, to heal, right? Or to
Right.
feel that comfort is to say, okay, I'm going online, but instead of looking at the love interest or the romantic interest, let me start following influencers that are therapeutic. There are
Mm,
a lot of people that are in the therapy world that are adding and contributing to these conversations. Every time I feel the urge to go this way, I'm going to reshape my behavior and intentionally go that way. And journaling and talking about it and doing whatever I can do to not feed into the the feelings of like, okay, I need to get somebody else to fulfill me, like to validate me.
right.
There are safe people in the world that I can trust. There are individuals that I can open up to, and it can become safe for me. I'm moving more towards a secure attachment style in the sense that one is educating themselves about their own behaviors because and I could sit here all day and be like, okay, well, these are all the characteristics, but everybody shows up in different ways.
Yeah.
So journaling offline, that means journaling can be a way, a tool for somebody to help them. These are all coping mechanisms, by the way, that we can use to create more healthy alternatives to past behaviors,
Right.
intentionally breaking past behaviors, restructuring our daily activities, knowing, okay, this person too, like starting to understand ourselves and sit with our pain. That's probably not the number one thing is instead of going into whether it's social media or substance abuse or anything else for that matters, we start to tend back to the inner child, the raw emotions within that we didn't maybe have the ability to deal with when we were kids
Yeah.
or when we were young. And now with our reason saying, I'm accountable for you, I'm showing up for you. So going from self-abandonment back to like, I see and I hear myself. So through like mindfulness activities and meditation, that's one way. Spiritual practices, that's a way too, but you can combine those. On
Right.
journaling, you can combine it. Art, other activities, things that give you connection within, and then doing your best to start being in places when the time is right, maybe with the therapist first, to discuss relationships and see how in that therapeutic relationship, you can maybe start to test out your identity with your therapist and talk with them and allow that to be a safe sounding board and environment that can then spill over into other parts of your life. These are all just suggestions,
Yeah.
but I hope that that provides some way of understanding. But the number one thing that I want people to take away is that disconnecting from the reality of the relationship is where the problem starts to form.
Yeah.
Disconnecting from your life is where the problem forms. Going into pseudo, relationships, that are here because, there's expectations and this is where it feels good and it's a way of escaping our own pain. As long as I'm thinking about you, I'm not thinking about me. And coming back to that, reconnecting to ourselves first is something that I want people to lean towards because that gives power back. Personal power is the only way of taking back your perception of what's possible. So
Yeah.
that's what I really believe is people need to reunite with themselves first and really gain too that some of the relationships that they're maybe gauging in may not really be two-sided relationships at all. They may be
Right.
really unhealthy and that reality can hurt, but that's the reality that, is necessary to really start a person on that voyage of self-discovery.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, first of all, Rochelle, I want to thank you so much for being on People on Dating. I could probably talk to you like another hour. I like the part about journaling because I think if you
Yes.
get thoughts on paper and all that, and just become aware of what that you're so much on the phone that you need to. For me personally, I love to interact with people.
Yeah.
I don't need to. I'm not gonna lie. I look at social media, but a lot of times I try to get my ideas for the next podcast topic. But before I let you go, just a couple of more things. Talk more about your workshops.
Yeah, so my company is Exilifit, and I have a curriculum that I developed. It's a mindful-based stress reduction curriculum. It's an adapted version. There's social emotional learning and cognitive behavioral therapy tools that I integrate into the curriculum. Again, that comes from the actual clinical background um, for that time period and counseling. Um, so I do other workshops as well, right? I'm multifaceted. But I think for what we're talking about today, that this is most applicable. And normally organizations reach out to me and I'm able to come in and provide services wherever they're located. I can do these online workshops as well. I wish I
Okay.
do. And they're very structured. So it's structured around curriculum. It begins with awareness. That's just like what we're talking about. What's the number one thing? This awareness.
Yes. Yeah.
But there's so much that comes after. And there is this sense of reshaping thoughts and behaviors and dealing inwardly. In fact, we don't even get into dealing inwardly or even dealing with stress until like 4 chapters down the line. So for viewers, I want them to understand that wherever they're at in their journey is fine. And I also really want them to understand that, to be where I am right now through my own situation is years of work. Okay,
Right.
this didn't just come out of nowhere. And to be kind to themselves because like we don't even just get into the self-work until like 4 chapters down the line, 5 chapters down the line. And a
Okay.
lot of it comes back to self-compassion. And then we get into communication towards the end. Then we get into service and community in the final chapter and how we show up within our communities and make a difference. Because purpose is powerful too, right?
Yeah.
With those skills and gifts. And then I also just wanted to say, because it's really important that people understand this, that what they're struggling with today can become their gifts. And for
Mm.
those that are in anxious attachment and that are using social media, whether they're anxiously attached or not, or insecurely attached or not, I just want them to understand that they're valuable and worthy and that their value and worth is inherent. And understanding that is like for awareness is so powerful because once you start to take back your power in that way and you recognize your own value and worth comes from you, there's nobody in the world that can fill you with as much as you can fill yourself with. It's
Right.
really empowering. And then it helps you to see the value in other people. So there are gifts. And if nothing else motivates you to heal, because you're happy being in your place of wherever, right? And you love
Right.
your relationship so much, you just don't want to let it go. What I'll say is for the anxious, loving is a strength. It's a great person to have in your life, a great friend and a great partner, to have somebody that is maybe more anxiously attached on that end, because they will love, like they will love so much that they could get hurt a million times and get back up. So there's a lot of resilience there that they can build off of.
Yeah.
For somebody who's avoidant, right? Ability to discern is spectacular. These are individuals that you want in your corner to have your back. Like they could see who's on your side and not, and they're like, nope, cut them off. Like if you need somebody to tell you that that's it, your avoidant is there. They are like, nope, don't look
Yeah.
back. That's it. Nope, we're just moving forward, right? So they are able to see situations clearly, and that can be a huge gift if they can switch that around from, the fearful part. Like if we take
Yeah.
the fear and we conquer that, right? And then disorganized individuals, these could be some of the most complicated people, but they are so beautiful. The hypervigilance that they have regarding their surroundings and their ability to pick up on people's cues is phenomenal. Like they are great detectives. Their
Right.
attention to detail is phenomenal. Maybe even like artistry, like just being able to see and put things together. And I want that to be like one of the last things we leave off of, because I don't want people to walk away thinking that they're broken because they're dealing
Mhm.
with insecure attachment, or anything else for that matter, any personality disorder or any mental health issue or any emotional dysregulation. The key is going inward to discover how beautiful those things can be, and not being okay with things being the way it's been. There has
Mhm.
to be a point of personal responsibility. If these are emotions that are unprocessed from childhood, it's time to say, well, I have the reason now. I have the ability, and it's only me looking at myself in the mirror. So I just want people to know that they're beautiful and that there's hope, and to seek assistance. And if they people reach out to my organization and they want to provide services, I'm happy to be here. But I'm not the only organization. And if it doesn't work one way, keep trying other ways as well. Journaling is great for you and I, but for maybe somebody else, it might be
Absolutely.
art. For somebody else, it might be poetry. It might be writing in a different form. It might just be getting out there and having conversations with people and being okay with somebody like, oh, I tripped over my words, and getting comfortable with that. And then
Right.
say, oh,
Right.
the world didn't shut down because I'm uncomfortable with my words. Or on social media, going in and making a post like, this is who I am. I don't care if you like it or not. I'm going to be myself. And,
Right.
and really being like, yeah. And then being like, oh, the internet didn't break. Like obviously
Right.
within reason, we're not being malicious here, right?
Of course.
It's
Of course.
it's like, learning to be in it yourself in more spaces and showing up. And that's the way you conquer it. It's like, okay, it's safe to be me because I make a safe space within
Yeah.
myself. I make the safe space. Right. So that's all I
Yeah.
want to leave off. I didn't want to leave people feeling like they're hurt in any
No,
way.
no, no, definitely. And if somebody wanted to get in contact with you and learn more about the workshops and anything else
Yeah.
that you might provide, where can people find you?
So I have two websites. My personal website, the one that is like kind of with all the things I do and
Yeah.
all the workshops I could offer, and films and the arts and all that other stuff, is iamrochelle.com. Rochelle, Rochelle. And that will provide also links to all my other websites, like, with Exilifit, for example. And
Yeah.
if you want to go to Exilifit, I actually have right here in the corner, this
Yeah.
is curriculum cover. So Exilifit is Exilafit, and that's just exilafit.com. And there's so much information. And you can email me, you can, call. The numbers there. It's a valid business. I've been in business now for since 2012. It wasn't
Yeah.
always named Exilifit. So I've gone through a couple of name transitions, but I've been doing this work in the holistic field since like 2012 as an instructor, as a yoga instructor, and mindful meditation, and other kinds of things like that. So
Yeah.
yeah, just reach out to me. And if you even want to just reach out to, with an email and say, hey, this is something, taking place. Can you direct me? I'll do my best. If I'm not flooded with a whole bunch of emails, I can definitely answer the email and say, okay, maybe you can reach out here for a therapist, or there, or here's some great materials online. Loving Me After We is a really
Yeah.
good
I like that.
social media account. I kind of think that if you stumble on one, it'll start to open up your door to more because that's kind of how algorithms work. So, Loving Me After We, they provide a lot of information about this. The Attachment Project is another one. And these are actually like the handles on social media, on like Instagram.
Right.
Starting there could be some, really good resources too, and that can expand you out even further.
All
So,
right. Sounds good. Well, first of all, again,
oh yeah, and
Rochelle,
I'm
yes.
unapologetically alpha on social media. So you
Yes,
can check
I'll
me
don't
out
worry.
too.
I'll definitely put that on the show notes so this way people can find you. Well, first of all, Rochelle, I want to thank you
Thank
again to
you.
taking time out of your busy schedule to talk to people on dating.
Thank
I
you.
really, really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I wish you guys the best. God bless you. It's so many blessings. I hope you
Definitely.
find yourself. I really just want to hug everybody. Everybody self hug. I'm big.
Sounds good.
Every class I
I'm
teach,
going to
it's
do it
gonna
too. There you go.
yes, self hug.
All right.
You
Thank you, Rochelle.
yes, you are great. I thank you too, Will. You're amazing. Thank you for having this space and this platform. Thank you.
Believe me, it's my pleasure. Thank you. Bye bye.